You want her, so you text a little more than usual. You think about what to say before you say it. You check your phone more than you should. You lean in, slightly, but visibly, and something shifts. She responds slower. Her energy cools. The thing that felt possible yesterday starts to feel further away today. So you try harder, more effort, more presence, more investment, and she pulls back more. The opportunity you were chasing starts slipping. Not because you did something wrong, but because of how much you needed it to go right. Here's the contradiction nobody teaches you. The more you need something, the more your behavior distorts around that need. And the more your behavior distorts, the less you get. Wanting more makes you less. Every time. Let's name what's actually happening. You tell yourself it's desire, drive, ambition, caring about the outcome. But desire and need are not the same thing. Desire says, I want this, and I'll move toward it. Need says, I want this, and I can't be okay without it. One gives you direction. The other distorts everything. Watch the micro signals of need. You overinvest early, more than the situation calls for. You overthink, running scenarios, rehearsing responses. You overpursue, pushing interactions forward before they're ready. None of it is dramatic. None of it announces itself. But people feel it. She feels it. The interviewer feels it. The room feels it. Need has a frequency, and it repels the exact things you're trying to attract. There's an assumption buried in how most men operate, that intensity equals results, that if you care enough, try enough, want it enough, it will come. So you pour more in, more effort, more energy, more emotional investment, and you wonder why it's not working. Here's the truth. Effort is not the same as pressure. Effort moves you forward. Pressure distorts the direction. When you want something too much, you lose composure. You lose clarity. You lose the calm that makes you effective. You start making decisions from fear of losing instead of confidence in what you're building. And every person on the other side of that interaction can feel the difference. Need creates tension, and tension repels. Not because people are cruel, because pressure is uncomfortable to be around, and people naturally move away from discomfort. Here's the paradox. The less emotionally dependent you are on the outcome, the more control you actually have over it. This is not about becoming cold, not about pretending you don't care, not about detaching from action. It's about detaching from outcome. You still move, you still pursue, you still try, but you're not gripping the result. You're not white-knuckling the thing you want. The shift is this: from chasing to positioning, from forcing to allowing. You do the work, you show up, you act, and then you release it. Because the moment your well-being depends on a specific outcome. You've handed that outcome all your power, and a man operating from that place is not attractive, not effective, not free. The man who wants but doesn't need moves differently, speaks differently, carries himself differently, and the world responds to him differently. Same situation, same woman, same opportunity. The first man wants it badly. He checks his phone constantly, waiting for her response. He reads into every signal. He adjusts his behavior based on how she's reacting. He pushes the interaction forward before it's ready. He seeks reassurance through words, through attention, through her behavior. He gets emotionally affected by every shift. Every cold response hits him. Every delay creates anxiety. Every unanswered message becomes a problem to solve. He is completely controlled by what he wants. The second man wants it too, but he's not gripping it. He moves, but without urgency. He acts, but without pressure. He communicates, but doesn't chase responses. He lets things unfold at their own pace. He remains stable regardless of the outcome. One repels, the other attracts, not because of what they said, not because of what they did, because of the internal relationship they have with what they want. Need is not invisible. It leaks through everything. The timing of your texts, the speed of your responses, the way your tone shifts when things aren't going the way you hoped, the extra sentence you add when you should have stopped. None of these are dramatic signals, but together they build a picture, and she reads that picture before she can articulate what she's reading. The emotional pressure you're carrying transfers into the interaction. She doesn't think, he's needy. She thinks, something feels heavy here. She thinks, I feel a little suffocated. She thinks, I need some space. And she creates that space by pulling back. Your need, invisible to you, obvious to her, produce the exact outcome you were afraid of. When you're not gripping the outcome, you stop filling every gap. You don't rush responses. You don't force the next step. You let the natural rhythm of the interaction breathe. And space, real space, unhurried space, is where attraction grows. Because attraction is not built in pressure. It's built in curiosity. When you're not pushing, she wonders. When you're not always available, she notices. When you don't seem to need this to go well, she starts to wonder why. The tension between you shifts from the pressure of your need to the curiosity of your calm. And curiosity pulls people in. Pressure pushes them away. When you're always available, your presence costs nothing. It's expected, abundant, easy to take for granted. When you're intentional about your attention, when it's limited, considered, and not automatically given, it gains weight. She notices when you engage. Because you don't always engage, she values the message. Because you don't always send one. This is not a game. This is simple economics. Scarcity creates value. Abundance destroys it. The man who gives himself away freely, his presence, his attention, his investment, trains people to stop appreciating any of it. The man who is deliberate, who shows up with intention and not desperation, makes every interaction count. The man who is okay either way operates from a completely different place. He's not making decisions from fear of the outcome. He's making decisions from clarity about his direction. That independence, visible, behavioral, real, communicates something words cannot. It says, I'm not here because I need this. It says, I'm here because I'm choosing this. Those are fundamentally different energies. And people, especially women, are finely tuned to the difference. When you don't need the outcome, you stop behaving in ways driven by fear of losing it. You stop the checking, the chasing, the adjusting, the performing. And what's left is something clean. Confidence that doesn't announce itself. Presence that doesn't demand anything. You understand this. You've nodded at everything so far. And then she doesn't text back for 6 hours. And the need is back instantly. That's the gap. The distance between knowing and actually being. Because internally, you still need the outcome. And that need doesn't care about your intellectual understanding of detachment. It surfaces under pressure. Every time. In the moment you most need to hold still, you reach, you adjust, you push, and you undo everything. The application of this is not intellectual. It's behavioral. It's practiced. It's built under real pressure, not read about, not understood, trained. Match energy. Don't exceed it. Whatever she's putting in, meet that. Don't double it. Don't triple it because you want to show you care. Let things build at their natural pace. Early over-investment signals need immediately. It says, I'm already more emotionally involved than this situation warrants, and that imbalance creates discomfort. Give what is appropriate for where things actually are, not where you want them to be. Let the investment grow as the connection grows, not before. Notice the impulse. She hasn't responded. You feel the pull to follow up. Something didn't go the way you expected. You feel the pull to fix it. There's silence. You feel the pull to fill it. Notice it. Don't act on it immediately. Create a gap between the feeling and the action. That gap is where your control lives. Not every impulse deserves to be acted on, especially the ones driven by anxiety rather than intention. Wait. Breathe. Ask, is this response serving me or serving the need? Most of the time, you already know the answer. You act, you move, you try, and then you release it. The outcome is not your identity. If she doesn't respond, you're still okay. If the opportunity doesn't come through, you're still okay. If it doesn't go the way you planned, you're still okay. Not because you don't care, because your sense of self is not riding on this specific result. Rejection doesn't destabilize you. Disappointment doesn't break your rhythm. Failure doesn't redefine you, because you've built something internally that doesn't depend on external results to stay standing. This is where real power lives, not in the pursuit, in the ability to leave. If you cannot walk away, you are controlled by what you're staying for. The man who genuinely can walk away, who has other options, other directions, other things worth his time, operates from a completely different position. He's not staying because he needs this. He's staying because he's choosing this. That distinction changes everything. In relationships, it shifts the dynamic entirely. In negotiations, it changes your leverage instantly. In life, it gives you freedom that neediness never can. Build the ability to walk away, and then choose not to. That's where your power actually lives. One person cannot be your center. One outcome cannot be your identity. When a single thing carries everything, you grip it, you suffocate it, and you lose it. Build a life with more in it. Purpose you're working toward. Discipline that makes you better daily. Direction that exists independently of any single outcome. Not as a tactic, as an actual life. When you have more, you need each thing less. When you need each thing less, you pursue everything better. The man with a full life approaches every opportunity from abundance. The man with an empty life approaches every opportunity from desperation. Build the life. The rest follows. At some point, this stops being practice. You stop grasping. You stop forcing. You stop building your internal state on top of external outcomes. The internal language shifts from, I need this to work, to, I choose to pursue this, and I'll be fine either way. That shift is not small. It changes how you move through every room, how you hold every conversation, how you respond to every outcome. You become stable, not rigid, not cold, grounded. And grounded men, genuinely, behaviorally grounded, are rare enough to be noticed from across the room. This is not a dating strategy. It's a life principle. In money, the man who desperately needs the deal loses it. The man who can walk away closes it. In status, the man who chases respect loses it. The man who doesn't need it earns it. In opportunity, the man who grasps too hard fumbles it. The man who moves with ease finds more of it. The less you need, the more effectively you can handle. Because your clarity isn't clouded by desperation. Your decisions aren't distorted by fear. Your presence isn't contaminated by pressure. The principle is universal. Learn it in one area and watch it rebuild everything else. because they are driven by lack. They move toward things they want from a place of feeling like they don't have enough. They confuse intensity with strength. They think wanting something desperately shows how much they care. But desperation is not strength. It's just lack in motion. And they never build the internal stability that would let them want things without needing them. So they remain reactive, moved by every shift, destabilized by every outcome, controlled by whatever they happen to want most at any given moment. Most men live their entire lives this way, never quite getting what they want, never understanding why. Go back to the beginning. Same scenario, same woman, same opportunity. But now, he doesn't check his phone every 10 minutes. He doesn't adjust his behavior based on her signals. He doesn't push the interaction before it's ready. He moves without urgency. He pursues without pressure. He wants without needing. Two men. The man who needs loses control of the situation the moment he enters it. The outcome owns him before it happens. The man who doesn't remains himself regardless of how it unfolds. And because he remains himself, grounded, stable, free, he becomes the most interesting thing in the room. Stop gripping, stop chasing, stop needing. Want it, fully, clearly, honestly, but don't need it. Because the moment you stop needing it is the moment you actually have a chance of getting it. That's where your power begins.